Hello and welcome to today's webinar. Can you be a player in hyper-competitive markets? Today's business environment is more and more competitive. Companies need split-second data and analytics access. There should be no excuses around security. They need continuous innovation and cutting-edge solutions. And legacy storage just isn't going to cut it. On this event today, you'll learn how cutting edge storage as a service and agile data solutions can be used to help you overcome obstacles and develop an agile, secure, and scalable platform with no expensive or disruptive upgrades. Before we get started, there's just a few things that you should know about today's webinar. Of course, we want this to be an educational event. You've got business challenges and we have solutions. We encourage your questions in the questions pane, and we'll be doing a Q&A session at the end of the presentation today, so get your questions in early. We also have a best question prize to help encourage questions. I'll talk about that here in just a moment. I also want to call your attention to a number of resources available there in the Handouts tab. There's an ebook on how pioneers are seeing storage consumption through a different lens. There's an infographic on the top 10 reasons to choose Pure Storage as a service. There's an infographic on the top 10 reasons to choose Pure as a service. You'll find a solutions brief on how to meet business needs with Pure as a service. And finally, there is the Options Tech case study that you should check out. You'll learn more about that on the webinar today. We also have our $300 door prize that I'll announce at the end of the webinar. If you're watching this on demand, of course, the drawing has already occurred. The prize terms can be found right there in the Handouts tab. And then finally, we have our best question prize, as I mentioned, for another Amazon gift card, a $50 Amazon gift card. Prize winners will be selected and contacted after the event, and prize winners must, of course, meet the Actual Tech Media prize policy. And with that, I'm excited now to bring in our three expert presenters. Welcome, Diane Saucier, Director of Financial Services for Solutions Marketing at Pure Storage, James Lamming, Global Head of Infrastructure at Options, and Michael Russo, Vice President of Product Management, also at Options. It's going to be a great panel discussion. I'll first hand it off to you, Diane. Take it away.
Thanks, David and Actual Tech, and thank you everyone for joining us today for our webinar. Can you be a player in hyper-competitive markets? My name is Diane Saucier, and I'm Financial Services Director here at Pure Storage. I'm delighted today to be joined by two experts from Options Technology. Options is the #1 provider of IT infrastructure to global capital markets firms, supporting their operations and ecosystems. Founded in 1993, today Options provides high-performance managed trading infrastructure and cloud-enabled managed services to over 200 firms globally. Options provides an agile, scalable platform in an investment-grade cybersecurity wrapper, something that we will be discussing shortly. So with that, let me introduce our two guests. Mike Russo is VP of Product Management for Options. Mike is responsible for development of managed application services, cloud offering, security, and product roadmaps. He brings experience to Options from Finastra and OpenLink Financial, overseeing business development and cloud-based solutions. And James Lamming, Global Head of Infrastructure at Options. James works cross-platform on all products. He has 2 decades of experience in engineering and is integral to all product R&D. His previous roles include Senior Engineer, Enterprise Architect, and Head of Infrastructure R&D. So thank you for joining us today, Mike and James, and let's jump right in. What are some of the top challenges, either business or technical, that you've faced in the past year? Were they more operational in nature, customer satisfaction, cost, all of the above?
Thank you, Diane. I'll probably split this question with James if that's all right. So, I mean, we always see, a multitude of challenges, which we actually see as opportunities more so, I'd say, than challenges across the industry. Cost competition, being able to scale globally, that's always pretty, paramount. I would say probably in the past 2 to 3 years, and especially in the past 12 months, really the topic of cybersecurity has taken a precedence. And when we talk about, table stakes of even being able to enter and continue to compete in the financial services industry and that financial vertical, security really is paramount. If you're not able to deliver a secure solution, stand behind that security, and make sure you're keeping eyes and ears and giving clients visibility 24/7, it's hard to even enter the space, let alone maintain and play in the space.
Right. That makes sense. And you talked about security, and of course, there's always a major consideration in financial services, as you said, and as well as in other regulated industries. Is this a topic that you're seeing come up more frequently these days? And I guess more importantly, how has the topic changed over the last couple of years?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a topic that we've seen nonstop over the past couple of years. I think what has really changed is probably the landscape and the environment in which we all work in. All right. So, I mean, the shift to working from home, the shift to just larger technology-enabled solutions really have made the entire industry, a sandbox, if you will, for malicious actors and or folks with malicious intent, thus driving that security topic further and further to the foreground in everybody's mind. I mean, James, you can give me some of your thoughts around that as well, given your role in our technology at Options. How are you seeing that come up?
I think it's best phrased as the awareness of the problems. The awareness of compliance has really started pulling in over 2020 and 2021. We're seeing a large it's almost a maturing of some of our sort of the client base that we face off to, the understanding that actually when you now have more workers from home, you have more integration with more clouds than you've ever done before, having the understanding and a sort of a security layer throughout your storage and application stacks is becoming more and more key to the business. And even for standard regulatory requirements are increasing all the time, and we're obviously been very fortunate to make our way through SOC 1, 2, and 3 across the course of the years. But this means that we are very well placed to understand the requirements, and certainly as a solutions provider, we've certainly seen a massive uptick and an increasing understanding and awareness throughout that client base of what is required. I'd say probably before 2020, it's all about performance. 2024 forward is very much a focus on compliance, making sure data security, integrity, and it's been really interesting to be aligned and partnered with Pure for some of the solutions that have been baked in or brought into the application and the platform stack itself.
Yeah, that's very interesting. So I was wondering, as I'm sure others in the audience are thinking about these same challenges that you mentioned early on, and I liked what you said about the challenges are actually opportunities. I'm wondering what your IT environment looked like when you first started to address some of these. Do you feel like it was set up for an easy transformation, or were there some obstacles that you really needed to overcome?
From an operational standpoint, so security and things like encryption at rest have been a requirement pretty much across the board for the last 5, 7, maybe 10 years in the financial verticals. So that was just a requirement, day one. The requirement around things like data protection are new and more brought by clients rather than regulatory at this point in time. Ultimately, making sure that data is clean, it's consistent, all that sort of stuff is very useful. And from a backup, restore point of view, which is kind of the old world of thinking, we were lined up pretty well through migrating over to Pure. We're getting into a really good place there anyway. But where the awareness is now is how fast things like crypto lockers and stuff like that can make their way through a platform, and the ability to grab the data, clean the data, and get back to as close to as operational as possible. Those things really have sort of come up in the last year.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I'd say if there's one change that I've personally really felt, it's more so it's not so much one or the other anymore, right? It's not that it can be secure or it can be fast. It has to be both, right? So if the security is almost expected. Like I said before, table stakes wise to even play, you need to be secure. It's expected that you're secure. to James's point, giving that additional awareness, that's definitely a change we've seen. But I think also just the way, the market's evolved and people's expectations have evolved, speed is also equally paramount. So it's not just good enough to be secure. It's how fast can you get that security in place? How fast can you react if and when need be to react? So for me personally, I think speed's really come into the focus as well.
Right. Yep. It's always critical. So of course, up here, we love to see our partners grow. That's a great challenge to have, a great opportunity to have. With growth in mind, what were some of the main driving factors and what was the growth tied to? Was it a specific need or a line of business in the last year or two?
Yeah, sure. So I'll start with that, and then James, you can kind of back me up. Across the three lines of business at Options, we've seen great growth, historically and even present day. As we start to look at the way that we're expanding as a company, kind of moving, from small to now trending towards the medium large size, the ability to scale globally was wildly important. Our clients were expecting more of us. Their clients were growing even faster than they had in the past. And with things like, advanced analytics and machine learning, a lot of our end clients are now holding and storing, consuming more data than they ever have before. So it presented an interesting opportunity for us where we really needed to be able to roll out our global footprint quickly and really have limitless scalability on the storage side to support those strategies.
No, absolutely. So certainly over the last 20 years, that's a reminder. God almighty.
Time flies.
Over the last 20 years, ultimately storage has become a completely different world. Where we were talking about 20 meg disks in the past, we're now talking about solutions which are 20 terabytes in size for one database and similar. So it is getting slightly mad, but this madness has actually increased. And it's not madness anymore because we're finally developing the tools to make use of the data.
Right.
There has been a trend in the financial markets for the last 5 years or so where the cost of storage, we pay it because hopefully we'll be able to use the data later. This has led to people using less than optimal storage just to keep the data available so they don't have to delete it, get rid of it. They knew that one day it would become useful. They could start leveraging it. And now what we're seeing is that data that's kind of been stored over the last 5 years or so now all needs to be on high performance storage. It all has to be secure, right, and has to be very available and very scalable. So it has been almost waiting for the tools to be available on the general public, the sort of larger data mining tools to become available for people to start really pushing for it. But we're certainly seeing a big uptick in that. And that onto itself, searching data, indexing data generates data to access the data. So it kind of bubbles up. And again, with the computers getting faster, which means people can do more queries in less time, which means they can push it further. So it's kind of this big chain that is generating itself. And so, we're seeing a big growth in data through just clients we've had on the platform starting to make proper use of the data that they have. And now it's actually, well, what supplemental data can we add to that? And then we, as a business, what data we can bring to them to help them, further queries, further their understanding of what they're looking for.
Yep. Yeah, it's true. There's all of that historical data is now valuable, and of course you've got all the new types of data coming in, the more variety, more velocity. It's a lot. So in terms of as a service data storage, have you been able to quantify the savings that an OpEx model provided your organization versus a CapEx model? And if you are able to, what are some of the main areas where you see the most savings? Is it more in upfront capital expenditures or operational cost savings? Maybe even just freeing up IT staff to work on other things?
I can field this one first. The main thing has been the streamlining in CapEx. We have been increasing our footprint at a fairly exponential rate over the last 2 years or so, not just in amount of storage itself, but actually the data centers we sit in. As we break ground in each data center, we have new Pure Array delivered and implemented. And ultimately, we scale into those data centers. And what we found very useful with our Pure partnership is the ability to scale and scale quickly as needed. Some of these data centers and some of the client turn-ups can chew through tens or hundreds of terabytes of data in the course of a month or so. It can go that fast, and we have seen it go that fast. And so the ability for Pure to constantly sort of fuel that engine has been incredibly helpful. And one thing I'd have to bring along with that is also, it's all well and good expanding and delivering new arrays, but the ongoing support, maintenance, implementation, and upgrades of the arrays in the field has been very, very good as well. So as the number of arrays grow, the overhead of doing upgrades becomes more, but you need to do that. You need to do upgrades because of security reasons, for perpetual patching, functions, features, performance, all that kind of good stuff. And so the sort of always on style updates that the arrays go through have absolutely revolutionized over our previous storage partner, have absolutely revolutionized how open our business is to proceed with what is now essential maintenance, I suppose.
Piggyback off that, I guess on the business side, our partnership with Pure and switching to this OpEx and as a service model really has enabled us to also kind of remove some of the guesswork that we used to have when we had the CapEx model in place. Often, as an array would start to kind of reach capacity, we'd have to look internally and ask ourselves, do we really want to take on the CapEx for an additional full array? Sometimes that presented interesting, dynamics with some of our clients who would suddenly grow rapidly or potentially would shrink rapidly as well. So really having that as a service offering, as I said before, it takes a lot of the guesswork out. It allows us to scale as we need to scale and support our clients globally on that same measure.
Yeah, that's great to hear. If you had not chosen a storage as a service product, a Pure as a service to address storage, how would things be different, do you think? What are some of the things that might be different?
I think I'd probably have a few more gray hairs. To be honest, my Ouija board would have a little bit more usage, and I probably wouldn't look so sort of generally happy to be around. Pure as a service has seriously taken an awful lot of guesswork out of the platform. Having the ability to commit as we see the trending on our side, and the ability to use burst where required, it absolutely makes a huge difference. Again, although this is more of a technical reason than the model's reason, but the ability to move between controllers and move up through controllers as workloads increase, as data sizing increase, just as the same way as you're adding effectively a data pack, has absolutely been revolutionary. So some of the sites we have moved from the smaller controllers all the way to the biggest big controller. And that's been absolutely seamless from a client perspective. And they've just felt it like, oh, I'm just adding some more storage.
Right.
That is how it has to be in this style of business. It's an absolute requirement. So what's the difference? Well, difference is certainly an operational happiness. Clients not waiting to have new services delivered, and a consistent turnaround and a consistent turn up of service. I think it's something that can only really be leveraged at the scale we're at within an OpEx style model.
Yeah,
that's interesting. Go ahead, Mike.
For us, I think the biggest difference is, James has highlighted, it's really around agility and scalability. That's really what this partnership with Pure has brought us. I think the other piece, and James has kind of hinted onto it, but I'd love to echo it as well. Probably something we were hoping for and we expected, but something that's now really shown itself is just the quality of service and quality of partnership that we have with Pure. If and when we've ever needed to call upon you guys, whether we need a rapid expansion or if we need support for things that are already running, the team at Pure has been nothing but outstanding since day one.
Oh, I'm really happy to hear that. That's fantastic. You brought up a good point. It's not just removing friction for you and agility for you as options, but also for all of options customers, so that it's a seamless service for them as well. That's great. So switching gears a little bit, financial services firms have traditionally been behind the curve in terms of embracing the cloud. Concerns about security, compliance, performance, all of those things. In fact, FINRA recently put out a report about broker-dealer cloud practices and noted the challenges around compliance, cybersecurity, vendor management, vendor lock-in, things like that. Have you seen changes in cloud adoption over the last couple of years? And how important is it to be cloud ready for your customers? And how do you ensure that you can meet their needs?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, we've definitely seen an uptick in cloud adoption in the financial services vertical. I would say, especially in the past, 3 to 5 years, whereas conversations used to be kind of, no thanks, we can't put our data there, not secure enough, we won't even consider it. Kind of rapidly went into, we'll test things in a kind of a dev sandbox way into full adoption of cloud. So we're seeing a lot of our partners and clients still may not go full public, but they will certainly be looking to do things more in a hybrid sense than they ever have. We as options enable that type of solution. So our options cloud is fully capable of leveraging any of the major public cloud providers out there. And it's something that we're certainly embracing in support of our clients and partners. James has probably seen more than I have in this space as well, given his role within the firm. So, James, feel free to add to everything I've just said.
No, absolutely. Yeah. So we are certainly seeing a sizable uptick in our cloud handoffs. So we work as a sort of more of a multi-cloud approach, where we sort of lean towards more agnostic builds, where the services we deliver could be uprooted from one provider partner to another provider partner. Ultimately, not all services can work that way. It's just not a thing. Yeah. So we're very much along the multi-cloud route. Certainly, also delivering our own cloud within our data center clusters themselves. So when we say cloud, we have to understand what we're talking about from a services point of view. Is it just people wanting some self-service virtual machines, or is there a specific service? And I mean, there's too many services to even really try and mention, but we're seeing a significant uptick. Most, if not all, our new clients go multi-cloud, which would be both our cloud and Azure. We do have, for managed application partners, some AWS integration there as well. And again, whatever is required from a client perspective. But again, you do still see people aware of their data sovereignties, and some data just cannot be moved. And some data, it just doesn't make sense to move. On the other hand, you also get people moving data to places for no particularly good reason. So, it's like everything. You're right, the financial services are behind on adoption of cloud, but it also means they're behind where people have started realizing where the right use cases are. Right. So there's certainly a bit of a time to catch up and go, actually, I was probably better off doing it this way. But until they go through the motions and understand their applications best, you support whatever the requirement is at that point in time.
Sure, and we've certainly seen that customers moving certain workloads to the cloud and then moving them back on-prem as they figure out, what works best in terms of what the application is and how they need their data served and what the costs are and so on.
Yeah, there are. The understanding of the use case takes some time, and it obviously does take the occasional odd bill for people to realize that maybe there's a more aligned solution. Sort of, if you have a requirement for absolutely high performance block storage, you probably not be putting it into a cloud, but that's your use case. You can find that out yourself. Again, if you've got vast compliance requirements, you need to back up a lot of it and put it onto tape for whatever reason. Again, there are use cases for each cloud and each type of storage and mechanism.
Right. So Options clients are hyper competitive. They're always looking for an edge, and especially in the face of some of the new digitally savvy competition and savage, they're increasingly innovative. We see a lot more of the traditional financial institutions taking on some of the characteristics of the new fintechs and big techs, or partnering with them. For financial powerhouses, split-second access to their data is really the key to unlocking smarter trading strategies, better market insights. Can you share some examples of how you enable your customers to be innovative, to beat the competition?
Yeah, I can start on that one. It's actually quite a fun use case. So we migrated a client's workload from our previous storage partner over onto Pure. I'm pretty sure we converted what was a 26-hour process with the use of the integration of the Pure. I think we moved it down to 18 minutes.
Wow.
Now, just I know that's a little bit of a tidbit, but if you can do that for an application and a process, what does that do for the client's business? What does that now allow them to do with the data? Where can they now be more competitive? That is how I kind of see it. When you can leverage functions and features to cut massive swathes of time and operational cost. I mean, normally you're going to have a guy who checks out the data and checks in the data. You no longer need to pay them to be up all night to wait for reports to go green. That is where you're going to get a competitive advantage. Those sort of almost built-in operational pieces that really do make the difference. I see that as one of the things we've leveraged through Pure to make a big difference to the clients, not just raw performance, but actually some of the inbuilt API integration that we've managed to work with.
Yeah, I would certainly echo that. To James's point in that use case, we've also seen instances with our managed application partners and clients where we've taken things like refresh and restore down from double-digit hours into single-digit minutes. So something like a refresh happening in 6 minutes instead of 6 hours, which to especially an independent software vendor, you think about a product rollout or a project rollout, that's huge. Where now the team that's on the ground trying to implement a solution hand in hand with an end client can get back to work in minutes instead of hours. It really helps keep projects not only on track, but sometimes ahead of track. And that gives them, not only a positive experience for their end users, but as a company being able to go into that next project, knowing that, Options has their back, we knowing that Pure has our back. We're really able to enable those partners to move forward at much faster speed than they ever have before.
Yeah, that's great. And less downtime is less risk as well, right? So
Absolutely.
over time, it's never. So we've touched on the growing need for analytics during this conversation. And of course, that makes a lot of sense in this industry. The global market for AI and banking is expected to reach 130 billion by 2027. And financial services execs really believe that analytics and AI are crucial to their future success. How has Options evolved their AI and analytics offerings over time? Is there anything on the horizon that you'd like to share with us?
Yes, no. No, absolutely. We're seeing
a question. Sorry.
Got a sheet of things I'm not allowed to talk about. No, absolutely. So we've certainly seen a big uptick in use of data, as I was alluding to earlier. AI is obviously one of the key factors. Things like transcoding as well, which is kind of dumb AI, I suppose. And that sort of workload. And this is also why, again, we are mainly using Flash, the X series Flash systems, but we also do have a sizable FlashBlade implementation. And we're seeing, and we're using that to base an awful lot of the AI workloads that we've partnered with another vendor to deliver. And that on top of that, we're also using it for longer term storage for things like market data, which again is the database that a lot of these financial organizations really want to be looking into.
Right.
But the idea is, we manage the data so we can deliver the data and deliver a service where you can query the data. That's effectively what we're looking at. So and that I think that's 4 trillion. I do actually think it's a bit light. I think it's going to be larger. I mean, we are talking about more financial here, but it's a huge world that and a lot of unused data out there.
Yep, for sure. So delivering the right customer outcomes at the right time is synonymous with delivering a great customer experience. How is Options able to say yes to their customer aspirations and ensure that your customers are having a great experience?
Yeah, absolutely. Great question. I mean, as James mentioned before, we're really now moving into a true multi-cloud strategy. So if we see clients or partners who want to move either, workloads fully into the Options cloud, we've always been supportive of that. If we now see people trying to look at a hybrid or multi-cloud strategy, we're fully supportive of that as well. And thinking about just the partnership with Pure, the ability to scale at the speed and pace of our clients has been absolutely tremendous. And as James has mentioned, now starting to really put that data to use. So not only just consuming data, but now putting that consumed data to positive use, improving analytics, really delivering customers the best strategic and overall experience they can have, and giving them the potential and enabling them to grow at the speed of the market and their end clients has been truly game changing for us.
That's great. We have a couple of questions that have come in. So for you, Mike, you earlier implied that in financial services today, security is table stakes. It's the minimum you need to be in the game. And there's also a common statement that says you can either have security or speed. So you touched on this earlier, that you can't have, people say you can't have both. Obviously now you really, really need to have both. So what's your view on how you manage that specifically that challenge?
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's a great question. And quite honestly, I mean, the answer is you have to have both. I don't think there's the existence of you can have one or the other, is really where the market is looking right now. So, I mean, for us, enabling that goes across our entire company. So every single product offering we have has really been now, focusing both on agility as well as security. We have things like our auto SOC offering, which is we are taking some of our own data and our own analytics that we run across all of our client platforms, using AI, being able to give single pane of glass visibility to all of our partners and clients that enables them to really, see things in real time, make sure that their platforms are secure, action them if and when as needed. And it's really part of the value added service that Options brings. So, regardless of what cloud you're in, our teams are keeping eyes and ears on those estates 24/7, 365, and proactively, taking the actions needed, making sure that our clients are able to kind of rest assured that their solution's in good hands. And it gives those C-level executives the ability to sleep well at night.
That's great. That's really important.
Yeah, absolutely.
So part 2 of the same question, I think this really is what's your general plan to meet your customers' requirements as they grow and transform and their needs change? And I guess we'll aim this at James.
Thanks. No, well, continue to scale and continue to implement the required services. We're certainly seeing, as mentioned, a sizable increase in AI workloads. So we're working obviously with Pure around FlashBlade there. We're seeing an increase in focus around containerization on multiple types of containers. We're obviously working with Pure with that as well. And of course, you're standing on the shoulders of a rock solid block storage environment as well. So, that is delivering all of the services you'd require from Block in a highly performant, highly secure manner, which allows us to have the time and the space to think about what is the next solution that needs to be delivered, and what is the next solution that is going to be wanted, and then also go forward and build solutions that clients will want in their own time.
That's great. Yeah, free up resources to actually anticipate where the market is going and what the client is going to need next. That's fantastic. Well, I think we're out of time for today. So thank you very much, everyone, for joining us, and Mike and James for sharing your insights and your expertise. If anyone in the audience has questions that weren't answered, please feel free to reach out to us directly. And now I'll turn it back over to Actual Tech. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Diane.
Excellent job. Thank you so much to the Pure Storage and Options folks for presenting on today's event. I learned a lot. I hope that you did as well. We've got tons of questions. I'm afraid we didn't have time to respond to here. We will be routing these to the Pure Storage team. So thank you for all those. We do appreciate that. And with that, it's now time to announce the winner of our Amazon $300 gift card door prize. Let's see, this is going out to Daryl Daryl Waries from Idaho. Congratulations. We'll reach out to deliver that gift card, and we'll also be contacting our best question prize winner as well. Before you go, don't forget to download the handouts that are there in the handouts tab. There is the ebook, infographic, and solutions brief, and also the options tech case study. So make sure that you check out those links. Thanks for joining the event today. I hope that you learned a lot, and we'll see you next time. Have a great day. Bye-bye.